Are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, seriously. I know I probably shouldn't start with the main event before I go ahead and talk about my thoughts on the show, but I'm sorry. I just got done watching Money in the Bank, and now I'm really mad because what the fuck was that finish for the men's portion of the match? I mean, I'm sorry, this bothers me. It's like, so for those of you who didn't watch the show, here's what happened. Towards the end of the men's portion of the Money in the Bank match, the women had already finished. I'll talk about that afterwards. But it came down. It's like Rey Mysterio and Aleister have been tossed off the roof, so they're dead now, I guess. And Corbin and AJ were fighting for the briefcase. I think Daniel Bryan got knocked down somewhere. I don't know where. Anyway, so they're fighting for the briefcase. Then suddenly, out of and they both take down the briefcase. So they're both holding it. Neither know which. We don't know which one is winning. And then out comes Elias with a guitar. He hits Corbin over the back. Corbin lets go of the briefcase. AJ has it, and then he loses grip. It falls out of his hand and falls into Otis's hands, and Otis is declared a winner. But the rules is that whoever takes down the briefcase is the winner. And in a situation where you're whoever holds on to the briefcase, whoever gets a hold of the briefcase by himself is the winner. So that means AJ won, because Corbin let go of it. AJ had it had it in his hands, and then slipped out and fell into Otis's hands. But AJ had it. AJ had it in his hands. It doesn't make any sense why Otis won here. Like, sure, yeah, he got the briefcase after it fell down, but it still doesn't change the fact that Otis didn't take down the briefcase. The person who took down the briefcase was AJ. Well, actually, it was both Corbin and AJ. But AJ had his hands alone on the briefcase first. First, after Corbin let go of it after he was hit by Elias. So it doesn't make any fucking sense why AJ wasn't declared a winner. And if they're just going to ignore it and say, no, Otis won fair and square after this, that is bullshit on a high grade, because that's not what happened in the match. AJ won that match. I know the script, I know it's script and all that, but the way you presented that didn't look like, oh, both men let go of it and then it fell into Otis's hand. No, what happened was Corbin let go of it, AJ had it for a few seconds, which to me is enough to win the match. AJ was screwed. This is bullcrap. AJ Styles is your Money in the Bank winner. Otis is not. What the fuck? That's all I'm gonna say about the men's Money in the Bank winner. I'll talk more about the match afterwards. I think it's best if we start in chronological order of how things went, but now you know my thoughts about that. AJ got screwed. Anyway, so up next, so the first match was, well, the pre-show. It was Jeff Hardy versus Azzaro. A pretty standard Raw match. It ended after Hardy was able to hit the Swanton and get the 1-2-3. Decent match, nothing to write home about. It's the pre-show, who cares? The first match of the actual card was the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match. I'm not sure if I've mentioned in the past, I think I have, that I really hated the whole, it's a Fatal 4-Way, but only 2 men are legal at all times. It's not one from each team, it's just 2 people and they can tag in their opponents to get in the match. I hate that rule. It's stupid as fuck. It should be 1 member from each team, but whatever. It was a good match. Like, it was a lot of cool athletic maneuvers, especially from Grand Metalik and John Morrison. It ultimately ended with I think it was Lince. No, I don't think it was Lince. It was Grand Metalik. Lindsay got taken out by Kofi Kingston's Trouble in Paradise. Big ending from Big E onto Grand Metalik. 1, 2, 3. The New Day retains. The only other thing I want to say about this match is that there was something that happened in this match that I felt was really stupid, and for some reason the announce team agreed with me. So there's a point towards the end of the match where I think it's maybe Morrison or someone like that. Or I think maybe it's Kofi, runs towards the ropes. Jackson Riker jumps up and grabs the ropes, and so that whoever it was falls out of the ring. And for some reason, the referee says that he throws out Jackson Riker. But it's a fatal 4-way. There's no disqualification. He's allowed to be there. He can interfere as much as he wants, and there's no issue. So that makes no sense. Now, after this happened, immediately there was a big squat. Like someone jumps off the rope and knocks down several opponents. You've seen that move probably 100 times. So why couldn't Jackson Riker just be taken out by that instead of being thrown out by the referee for no good reason? And again, the announce team agreed with me. Like Corey and Michael Cole both said that, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's no disqualification. Jackson Riker can be here. He can interfere as much as he wants. It doesn't matter. I just... rules, man. They really screw those up a lot. But yeah, New Day retained, so that was a... New Day retained, that's the important part here. It's not... It didn't really impact anything, really. So, moving on. Then we had R-Truth versus MVP, except we didn't. Because R-Truth made his way to the ring, MVP made his way to the ring. They started arguing a little bit about some basketball, or I think it, or that either that or it was MVP's signature ball-in move. Anyway, while they're arguing, out comes Bobby Lashley. He says, "I got this," and MVP just says, "Sure," and Bobby Lashley takes MVP's spot. It's a pretty short match. There's a little bit of offense from R-Truth, but it ends with Bobby Lashley hitting the spear. 1, 2, 3. Bobby Lashley wins. Okay. What was the point of advertising MVP versus R-Truth if you were just going to do that? I mean, that match came out of nowhere, so you might as well have just announced R-Truth versus Bobby Lashley if you were going to do that anyway. So what, are they building some sort of relationship between MVP and Bobby Lashley going forward? I don't know. Oh no, it was a short match, nothing important. Let's just move on. Then we had the Smackdown Women's Championship match, Bayley versus Tamina. Tamina started off strong, knocking Bayley around, but Bayley eventually started targeting her right knee, I think, or was it the left? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, she was working that leg a lot all throughout the match, but eventually Tamina was able to turn things around. Eventually she hit a super kick, hit the Samoan drop, but before she can make the pinfall, Sasha gets in the ring. Ring distracts Tamina. Tamina runs after her gets in the ring. I think Bayley tries to cut her off, but Tamina's able to turn that into a super kick. Picks her up for the Samoan drop, but Bayley turns it into the most devastating move in all of professional wrestling, the surprise roll up, and gets the win. Then after the match, Tamina tries to pick her up for the Samoan drop anyway, but Sasha beats her down and knocks her out. Bayley and Sasha just walks off, and there you go. Yeah, fine match, nothing wrong with it. A bit weird of a finish to have Sasha Tamina get distracted by Sasha just getting in the ring instead of her actually doing anything. But that's the way it is. It's fine. Then we got then we had Bray Wyatt, the Funhouse version, versus Braun Strowman. It's Bray starts off the match trying to appeal to Braun, but Braun's having none of it. He beats him down a lot, and then Bray finally starts taking the match seriously. They go a bit back and forth. There's a point where Braun is charging at Bray, who's near the announce table. He moves out of the way. Braun flies over the announce table. He's knocked on his ass. As Bray's taking advantage, hits his sister Abigail, but Braun kicks out of it. And for some reason, Husky's the Pig Boy shows up near the guardrail for some reason. Then they fight a bit back and forth. Braun is knocked to the outside. And Bray keeps saying, and he keeps talking to someone off screen, which I'm assuming is the Fiend. Anyway, Braun then rises up and he has the black sheep mask on. And Bray's overjoyed. He thinks he's turned Braun around. They hug. The puppets are ecstatic. Then Braun takes off the mask, stomps on it, picks up Bray. Bray hits the power slam. 1, 2, 3. Braun retains. Says, "You don't control me." Walks up to the ramp. And we cut to Bray sitting in a corner. And then a static image is over his face of the Fiend. So it looks like I was right. We're going for a Braun beats Funhouse Bray, and then the Fiend's coming to pick up the scraps. So yeah, we're gonna see the Fiend versus Braun Strowman going forward. Anyway, moving on, we have the other world title match. It's Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. Interesting note: Seth Rollins has new theme music. It's a lot more. It's more of a gospel choir sort of music. It's sort of holy, sort of a holier theme to it, and that's cool. I like it. It's a cool new entrance theme. It fits more with his character than the whole burn it down sort of thing. Anyway, the match itself is fairly competitive. It's a back and forth. Seth Rollins continues to target Drew's left leg to make sure he can't use the Claymore. A lot of back and forth. There's a moment in the match where Seth goes outside and grabs a chair, thinking about using it, but ultimately decides to toss it away. Back and forth. There's a really cool spot where Seth has Drew in the Tree of Woe. He is knocking him down. I think he's looking to do some sort of moonsault towards him, but then Drew leaps up and and gives him a German suplex from the Tree of Woe position to toss him halfway across the ring. So that was cool. Eventually, Seth is able to counter, hits a curb stomp onto Drew, but he kicks out at 2. Then there's a sequence where Drew hits his headbutt, which I think is called the Glasgow Kiss or something like that. Seth counters with a super kick. Drew bounces off the ropes, hits the Claymore. 1, 2, 3. Drew retains. So yeah, not a single title changed hands at this event. Okay. Anyway, after the match, Drew gets in the ring. Well, he was already in the ring. He stands up and offers Seth Rollins a handshake, and Seth takes it. He shakes hands, and Drew walks away. And Seth has a weird look on his face. I'm not entirely sure if that's angry or content. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a weird thing to have. Weird to see that Seth actually took the handshake. Anyway, that's done with. It's time to get to the Money in the Bank match. It starts off by having everyone introduced. We have the men in the training room. or the gym. I'm not entirely sure what you would call it. And then you have the women in the entrance lobby, all except for Asuka, who appears on top of the archway in front of the entrance. Then as soon as the bell rings, Asuka dives onto everyone. Everyone runs for the elevator and gets in and gets to go up and gets to use the elevator to get up. Meanwhile, the men are just fighting inside the training room, using the equipment back and forth. There's a point where Corbin actually tosses a weight and crushes a mirror right there. And immediately I just thought, well, you just gave yourself 7 years of bad luck, so you're probably not winning this match. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is that AJ, at some point, Otis traps AJ under a giant weight, and he yells at Rey Mysterio to help him out, but Rey just runs away. And as Rey runs away, he runs into the bathroom and he finds Brother Love. For some reason, a small cameo. There are a few of those throughout this match. For example, there's a point where the women are fighting in a boardroom, and there's apparently a Money in the Bank briefcase hanging above the conference table, and Dana thinks that's the actual briefcase, so he takes it down thinking she has won. Then Stephanie McMahon shows up and says, no, this is the conference room. The actual Money in the Bank briefcase is on the roof. There's a point where they run into catering, where Paul Heyman is sitting eating lunch, or some sort of meal. I'm not entirely sure what you would call a night snack maybe, but it was a full anyway. All the competitors run in there, well, except for a few, but most of the competitors enter there, and Otis screams "food fight" and throws a big plate of something into Paul Heyman's face, and then everyone just starts throwing shit at each other. This is also the point where we actually get some small intergender wrestling where Shayna traps Rey in the Kirifuda clutch, and then Rey is then squished in between Otis and Nia Jax. But that's pretty much all we're getting. Then we come back to AJ, who's running through the halls looking for Rey. He finds a giant poster of Rey and punches that because he's annoyed by Rey. He runs through, and then he sees the poster of The Undertaker. And he gets a bit of flashbacks to the Boneyard match. Planting seeds, are we? Or is it just trauma? Anyway, AJ runs off another direction, tries to open different doors, and then he opens one, and inside it's a blue dark room with a couple of caskets in them. And then Alistair shows up, knocks AJ into the room, and locks the door behind him. Anyway, there's a lot of weird moments like that. There's also a moment after the catering fight in the catering area. Otis runs into the kitchen and finds a rack of pies, and then all of a sudden John Laurinaitis rolls in on his scooter. He says "people power," and gets smacked in the face with a pie for his troubles. Good on you, Otis. That's good on you. Still don't think you actually won that briefcase, and you shouldn't have either. Anyway, then we have a scene where AJ and Daniel Bryan are fighting, and they end up in Vince McMahon's office. And it turns out Vince is actually sitting there, and he says, "Get out!" And they're being very respectful. AJ even says we should put the chairs that we knocked around back in their place. They walk out, and Vince just puts on some hand sanitizer to make sure things are okay, walks out, and then Bryan and AJ just keep fighting. Have I missed anything other than that they did in this office? No, I think at that point Corbin attacks them both and runs up to the roof. Meanwhile, the ladies have already made it to the roof. Well, 3 of them have. I think Carmella Dana got knocked out in the catering area after Nia put Carmella through a table and knocked Dana into a Coke machine. And I think Shayna got taken out by being chokeslammed into a wall, because all three of them were absent from the last piece of the match. Anyway, Nia, Lacey Evans, and Asuka all make it to the roof. They throw each other into a ladder, back and forth, and then eventually Asuka's alone. Then Corbin shows up, and for some reason tries to stop Asuka from winning. Asuka kicks him down, takes the briefcase, and she yanks it down. Asuka won Money in the Bank. Holy hell. The one time I decided not to go with my head instead of my heart, and I was wrong. But again, I am super happy to be wrong. Asuka, yes. I am all for Asuka as Miss Money in the Bank. Please don't have her fail her cash in. Just have her win the championship. Have her unseat Becky as champion. If you can. If you're going to do this meeting, why not just have her cash in and win the match immediately? Why not? Anyway, Asuka's declared the winner. I guess the ladies are cleared out of there because then I think Otis and Rey Mysterio then make it there. They fight a little bit, and then Corbin gets involved. Then Aleister comes in. All four of them are fighting back and forth. Eventually, AJ Styles joins in. I don't remember what happened to Daniel Bryan. I don't think he partook in the last part of the match. Anyway, then the finish happened, as I said earlier in the video. You know, both Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black were thrown off the roof by Corbin. And then the bullshit happened in the end, like I said. I still maintain that was bullshit. AJ won that match. But officially speaking, it's Otis. That's crap. Again, my big issue isn't really with the fact that Otis won. It's how he won. If you presented it much better than what you did, I might have not been so mad about it. But I mean, still, I don't think Otis should have won. It's way too early for him to get something like a world title shot. Are you fucking kidding me? But, you know, I would have accepted it if he hadn't won in such a weird fucking way. Wait, he wasn't the one to take down the briefcase whatsoever. However, AJ had it in his hand. He won that match, and for some reason it's handed to Otis. It's the James Ellsworth crap all over again. And I maintain that. James Ellsworth is the winner of the first ever Women's Money in the Bank. It's not for a joke or anything. That's what happened. He took down the briefcase. He won. Anyway, that was bullshit. Otis did not win that. Should not be considered the winner of that match because AJ took it down first. I'm not just salty because I had AJ picked to win this match. It's also because the way they presented it, AJ had the briefcase. AJ got screwed. In storyline, I mean. It bothers me. So, am I happy about the winners? Well, as you know, yes for Asuka, no for Otis. Purely because of the presentation. But, how about the show itself? Did I like it? There wasn't a bad match on the card. I mean, sure, R-Truth versus Bobby Lashley was... Why? Why was it even there? And, no, I can't say there was anything else I can say that was bad. The tag match was good. The women's match was okay. I really enjoyed Braun versus Bray because there was a lot of good storytelling there, showing Bray just being... I forgot to mention that in the actual in my actual rundown, but he just was so torn about beating up Braun because it was his special little boy. He didn't want to hurt him, but he knew he had to because apparently the Fiend told him he had to. I'm guessing what happened is the Fiend wanted to target Braun in terms of story here. The Fiend wanted to target Braun, but Bray said, "No, he's my creation. I can turn him around. I can get the title back, and you don't have to destroy him. Please don't destroy him." And then he lost, so now the Fiend is coming for you. I like that story. That's actually really good. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre was really good as well. It was probably the best in-ring, as a match kind of thing. That was probably the best match of the night. Braun versus Bray was good storytelling, and the Money in the Bank match was fun up until the finish of the men's part of it. But the actual thing was a lot of fun. There was a lot of cool, fun shit they did with it. Some nice cameos, all that. It was a fun match. I really think they could have done a better job with how they presented the whole Otis victory thing. I feel like the way that they did it, AJ won that match, and I'm standing by that. That was crap. Although I do hope with all the Undertaker references they made, we're setting up for a rematch. I really hope that's what we're doing. We're setting up for a rematch between those two. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Money in the Bank. It was a good show, definitely. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. If you can stomach the empty arenas sort of stuff. It wasn't that noticeable this time around, maybe except for the tag match, which, that it was very noticeable there, but it's not the worst. But yeah, that does it for. Sorry. That does it for me about this show. Don't know what I'm doing next. I know Backlash is next month, but I'm not entirely sure I'm gonna watch that show either. Depends on how long the Undertaker documentary is lasting. The first episode is currently airing on the network, but they posted it much earlier, so I've already seen it. So I'm waiting for part 2. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe you'll see maybe you'll see some thoughts on Backlash from me. Maybe I'll do something else. Who knows? Anyway, and one last time, AJ Styles got screwed.